up, fam? It's your favorite cousin, your favorite nephew, your favorite uncle, your favorite father, your favorite son, your best friend's best friend. It's me, Dr. Larry, and welcome to Living For You, the YouTube channel. This is a safe space and a positive place in which we come together, we learn, we grow, we talk about sensitive subjects, things tough to talk about, or we talk about lighthearted subjects. But we are growing, we are coaching ourselves through this journey in life so that we can come to a place to live the present, most best life that you deserve, that I deserve, that we all deserve. So welcome to the channel. My family, my loyal, faithful family who have been subscribed and rocking and riding with me since day one, I love you. Welcome back. Thank you for coming. And to those of you who are new, who watch, because I have watch time, and I can see that people watch, and it's mostly non-subscribers. All of you should be subscribed to this channel. Hit the subscribe button. If you just come and indulge, hit the subscribe button so you can be a part of this family. You can be a part of this family. I don't know why you haven't subscribed yet. To those of you who are just now seeing me the first time, I'm Dr. Larry Smith. I am a certified life and spiritual coach. I help clients get through dealing with the trauma by either life coaching techniques or spiritual coaching techniques. There's many ways of healing, and I specialize in both of those. If you want to learn more about me, you can actually go to www.liveforyoucoaching.com. That's www.liveforyoucoaching.com. And you can also, if you want to follow me on social media, because I do a lot of social media, very active out there on a whole gambit of different subjects, you can actually follow me at Dr. Larry Smith on both Instagram and on Facebook. I'm Dr. Larry. Hi, y'all. Hi, y'all. So I saw this picture. It moved me to come and have this conversation. So I'm going to share this picture. You guys should be seeing it now. It's a picture of Dr. King, Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and he's removing a burnt cross that someone had placed in his yard. But the powerful part of the imagery for me was right next to him was his son. And I think that's Martin Jr. It looks like Martin Jr. He still kind of looks the same even to this day as an elder guy. But I think that's Martin Jr. And he's standing there as his father is removing this burnt cross. And this conversation that came to me that I thought I should come and have with my family, amongst loved ones, amongst those we care about, is the conversation about when is it too soon, or is it too soon ever, to talk about racism with children? In this climate today, in this social climate that we're in today, we are having this conversation right now all over the place. In academia, you guys know I'm a professor of history, but I've also been a teacher at many levels, and there in education, and there is this conversation amongst academics, amongst politicians, amongst others, or should we be teaching about racism and race relations in the United States to our students here in the United States at young ages, or just in general? And you got people who are passionately anti-teaching this to their children for whatever reason, right? For whatever reason. And I might even include a video of interaction of a parent interacting as it relates to teaching race or teaching about racism in school. It's called CRT. If you don't know what CRT is, I'll also put a definition of it up there. But it really, critical race theory really is only taught in law school. I can recall in my 20-year career as an educator, while we talked about race and when I talked about racism, it wasn't part of the curriculum in any deep and meaningful way. It was kind of an additive, my own personal, to my curriculum to add more meaning for my students of color, my black students, and my Latino and Asian students. But it wasn't me to go into a meaningful, detailed discussion about racism in the classroom. But the interesting thing is that people are, it's almost like CRT or critical race theory has become like this evil that is lurking over the country, and they're trying to indoctrinate our students into thinking, I mean, it literally has taken a life of its own, far away from what it actually is. And what I have noticed is that most of the people who have the conversations and are so against it know nothing about it, are not even aware of what they're talking about. What it boils down to in simplistic terms is people just don't want their kids to hear about the realities that some of us have in this country. And so that's why that picture hit deep home, because looking at Martin Luther King, Dr. King, take that burnt cross in his yard in front of his child being there, he's going to have to explain to that child what that means. He's going to have to explain, it's not the cross we have at church. It means something different. He's going to have to explain to that child why was it burnt in his yard. He's going to have to explain to that child the hatred behind that, the violence behind that. He's had to explain that several times, because there was a situation in which they tried to bomb his house. There was a situation in which they assaulted him. He actually had gotten shot and stabbed and some other things. There was a situation where he was arrested. All of this had to be explained to his children. And then ultimately there was a situation where he was assassinated, and that had to be explained to his children at a young age as well. The reason why I point all that out is because people of color can't afford not to discuss this with their kids. In fact, we don't have any other options but to discuss these types of things with our kids. Because what winds up happening is, even if we never have the discussion about race and about discrimination and prejudice and all these things with our kids, 99% of the time they're going to experience some form of it in their lives. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you live, whether it's in the north, south, east, or west. If you're a person of color, you're going to experience some dynamic of race and racism and discrimination and prejudice. And why is that? Because of the way the system has just been built. Racism is very closely connected to American culture. And so therefore it's almost like part of the DNA. And so the thing is, you're going to experience it. So why not explain to your child, do them a service, and curb that experience so it's not devastating, so that they know how to respond in that situation. And we've seen it happen. We watched it play out. Like, and I know people say, well, Dr. King was back in the 1950s and 60s, and that was back then, and things ain't like it is today, ain't like it is back then. Well, how do you explain to a kid who watching TV and they see what happened to George Floyd? How do you explain to a kid when they're on social media and they're watching TV and they hear about what happened to Breonna Taylor or Ahmaud Arbery or Trayvon Martin, who was closer to their age, or or any of those other people, Tamir Rice, who was only 13? How do you explain what happened to them? How do you explain that there's a perception of threat simply because of them existing in the skin that they exist in? And I can go on and on. How do you explain things that happen in their neighborhoods and how people might treat them at the stores, or the Karen phenomenon, how people just approach them with negativity? How do you have to explain those to kids of color. So I believe that if it's good enough and it's mandatory to explain to kids of color, it should be mandatory to explain to all kids. To all kids, to help them understand that while this is a problem, you don't have to be this way, and you're the future to solve the problem. You're the future to not allow this problem that has affected people for hundreds of years to continue. You can stop it. You can end racism. You can end discrimination. You can end justice, and you can end injustice, and you can make a more equitable world for everybody. We can't just act as though those things that don't exist and then not teach our kids about it, and then when they confront it or when they perpetuate it, because I've even seen videos in which the parents are doing racial things and their kids are right there. I've seen videos of those Karens where they're the Karen people phenomenon where they approach people just for whatever reason in front of their kids and call them out their names in front of their kids. So even because black kids are automatically going to be subjected to it, the truth is, so are little white kids. They're just learning how to do it from some of their parents and their parents' associates and television and other places. So why not curb the negativity behind it by informing kids what not to do, how to treat people? One of the things that I hear all the time, and it never fails, is, I don't see color. And I teach my kids not to see color. And it's always said with so much pride, like congratulations, you don't see color. Wow, that's great. That's wonderful. However, At the end of the day, who I am is my color. You know, how I'm received by the world is part of that, is my color. I can have a mind so sharp, I can write 1,000,000 books, I can produce a lot of YouTube videos, I can do a lot of public speaking engagements, courses, and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, you still see me as a black man doing this. And it's okay that you see me as a black man doing this. I don't want you to not see me as a black man doing it. Let me tell you why. Because my color, my culture, my ethnicity, my race, it all informed me of who I am, and it informed my experiences, and it helped to create the wisdom that I have, that I share. And so I value my color. I value my ethnicity. I value my race. And so at the end of the day, if you're telling me you don't see it, you don't value something that I think is important to me and to my experience and to my existence. I don't give a damn if you don't see it. I don't give a damn if you see my color. I give a damn if you treat me wrong or less than because of my color. That is racism. Seeing color isn't racism. Treating people inferior or less than because of their color is racism. So just because a person says I don't see color does not mean a person isn't racist. Okay? That's not what that means. That just means you're blind to who I am and how your racism might impact who I am, and how systemic and social racism impacts and informs who we are. We can't ignore it and deny it and push it away like it don't exist. And we damn sure can't try to go into the textbooks and try to rip it all out as though it was never a thing. We've done that already. That's how we started. You know, when you see things like African American history, Chicano history, Asian American history, Native American history included in textbooks, those are new phenomena as into the 20th century, ladies and gentlemen. Carter G. Woodson is the father of modern black history. W.E.B. Du Bois was writing early black history in the early part of the 20th century, which means that prior to that time, there wasn't that widely published information about the diverse culture of black history. Then we get John Hope Franklin. Then we get John Henry Clark. You know, we start to get these people, you know, after the fact. You know, we start to get other people like Toni Morrison and other writers putting it out there later on. But before that, within the 20th century spectrum, it wasn't even in textbooks. Even when W.E.B. Du Bois and Carter G. Woodson was writing about it, it wasn't in the textbooks. So you're talking really up until like the 1960s and 70s when it became pushed for more, that you begin to see it show up even in the textbooks. So literally what people are trying to do by taking things like black history, Asian history, Hispanic history, Chicano history, Native American history out of the textbooks, what they're really trying to do is take something that just got in the textbooks not that long ago, within the frame of 100 years or less. You cannot tell the story of this country without telling the color behind it. You cannot tell the movements and the history and the economics and the science and the literature and all of those important things that we've shared. While you're giving a conversation about William Faulkner and Ernest Hemingway and Eudora Welty and all these people that we learned in high school, you should also be teaching Langston Hughes and Nella Larson and Alice Walker and Toni Morrison and all these writers. While you're teaching the other philosophers, you know, that we know of, Socrates and Robespierre and all these other people, you should be teaching the Alain Locke's and the W.E.B. Du Bois's, you know, and the James Baldwins, the thinkers, you know, and some of the Latino ones, Dolores Huerta. You know, you should be teaching even Che Guevara. You should be teaching these different thinkers. But unfortunately, there's a push against adding color to it. Because here's the thing, as a 20-year educator, I can tell you that if we go through the curriculum as it has always been, it misses a lot of points. There's highlights for people of color, but it's never part of the main story. The main story is always a white story. It has always been a white story, and people of color have been different subtext within the white narrative. And we got to change that, because that's not a reflection of accurate history or accurate storytelling or accurate academia, and it's not a reflection of even what we look like as a culture nationally. When I was a young man, I begged and I wanted to learn more about people who look like me, starting before the transatlantic slave trade. The transatlantic slave trade was just a small portion in African history, and I only knew from that point to now. And so I wanted to learn more. So that was what I dived into in college, and a whole bunch of other things in college, so that I could learn more about the real story that I was not given in the classroom. So we do our children a disservice when we try to extract stuff that we don't think is comfortable. If children can watch violence on TV, they can learn about race and racism. If children can play violent video games, they can learn about race and racism. If children can see crime on the street, watch news and all those things, they can learn about race and racism. If children can experience racism or perpetuate it, they can learn about race and racism, because that's the only way. Education is the only way to better society. And it's not education that we're comfortable with. It's all education so we can disseminate and decipher through information so we can make the world a better place. Now, I know that conversation was a little uncomfortable, but hey, remember what I just said. It's about educating and talking and having even the uncomfortable conversations that we don't want to have. That's what we do. That's what we do on this channel. That's what we should be doing in this country. That is ultimately what we should be doing in the world, just so we can be better people, be well-informed people, be better people to grow, and eventually get to loving everybody like we're supposed to, and living the present lives like we desire and that we all deserve. Anyway, that's it. That's it. I hope you enjoyed that. I had to get it off my chest. That picture of Dr. King and his son just moved me to have that discussion. And you know, you guys, if you didn't know by now, if you've been following me long enough, you know I act out on passion. None of this is scripted. This is me talking. This is me going in and just having a good commentary about something that moved me to talk about it. So anyway, I love you guys. I love you with the highest love that can possibly be given to another person. And as I always say, I will see you in the next video.